Hey there, happy Watch Soup Sunday. I am Bobby Legs, the co-host of the Watch Soup, joined by Clayton and Sam this Thanksgiving weekend that just passed. And I know I ate a lot. Clayton, Sam, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm
yeah,
uh I'm a butterball.
yeah. Well, we have a whole week to recover, and what a great way to recover by starting off with some Watch Soup on Sunday night. Hey Clayton, wow, what do you got on wrist, buddy?
The same. I'm boring. The black
It's a great
FXD
watch.
US Navy on the Octopod clasp. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that watch. It looks so great on you, man.
I've been wearing it for about 8 weeks straight now. So
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like changing it out either. So I'm just gonna keep going.
Very
Ride this
nice.
unfamiliar wave of watch monogamy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good for you, man. Good for you. Tell me how that goes. It looks well. It's going good so far, right? Hey, Sam, congratulations! Your first appearance on Watch Soup.
I
Woohoo!
know. Looking forward to it.
Co-hosting for Sanjay, who at the end of this year is it's a little bit hard with his schedule and the kids and whatnot. So hopefully, starting the new year, Sanjay will be more consistent. And Sam, what do you have on wrist this evening?
I am wearing the Marathon GSAR, the automatic. I've actually been wearing two other watches, but I can't show them quite yet. But maybe later in the week. But yeah, wearing the GSAR. I got in a trade, so that was good.
Oh, nice,
Oh, that's
nice.
fun.
I like Marathon. Marathon, they make a good watch. They really do.
Yeah, I
Nice
bought
and
the
solid, right?
bracelet for it, and
Mhm.
I bought the bracelet for it. I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
So
Well, we talked about that on your stream last week, right?
yeah,
Um, Speaking of streams, this is the last stream on the Bobby Legs Loves Watches channel. As some may know on the chat, started a new channel called the Bobby Legs Livestreams, and start this Tuesday. Going to be starting to do that, Sam. So I don't know if you knew that, Sam, but yeah.
no.
So yeah,
Yep.
I'm just keeping this channel for the watch reviews and topic related videos, and then I have the live stream channel just first for the live stream for the Tuesday night live stream, sometimes a Friday, whatever, and then Watch Soup, of course. So that will be transitioning. This Tuesday will be the first episode, first live stream on that channel. Anyway, hey, I'm wearing the Zen 856. In one of the videos that we're going to watch today, there was the debate between anthracite dial and the black dial. I got my anthracite dial here. Hey,
Yeah.
let's say hello to some people in the chat, and then we'll get started. Quicker than drawing. Good to see you. Bill K is here. Justin R is strapped in. Hey, James. Good to see you. Peter C. Underachieving watch collector. Justin R. Yep. Soup's on, man. Mez9 is here. Ken Spear checking in from Pittsburgh. Caliber. How are you? And Justin, he's wearing his Panerai. Felt like taking it to the man town. All right. Okay. Sure.
Too manly of
Uh,
a watch for me, probably.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's Panerais are great. Um, well, and Wayben is here. Good to see you, Wayben. Ken Spear, he's wearing the PRX this evening, and Caliber. Good to see Sam on. Yeah, it's good to have Sam on
Absolutely.
as always. As always. Well, it's Sunday night. It's Watch Soup, and let's get some soup on. uh,
What do you do with that leftover turkey? You make soup, right?
you make soup,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
why not start off with you, Clayton, your pick this past week for Chrono24, best dive watch, most overrated brand. These are fun videos that he does with the guy from was it
Fratello.
Fratello, yeah, the
Yep.
Fratello podcast, or um, and take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, these are always fun. They're good conversation starters. There's a few of them that didn't really interest me, so I'm just gonna skip those, like the
Sure.
car and the shopping best city to shop in. But yeah, I think these always kind of spark debate. So I think we'll just go one at a time. I'll
Let's do
read
it.
their responses and then I'll get you guys responses. All right. So yeah, they start with a little like hokey talk at the beginning, Skip Bayless, Max
Hey,
Kellerman stuff, ESPN sports personalities, and then they go right into it. Yeah, for Balaj is from On Air, Fratello On Air, the podcast does with Mike Stockton. So that's a great podcast.
mhm.
Those guys are good. And yeah, Thomas from Chrono24. So best watch of the year, Thomas thought it was the JLC Reverso Tribute Chronograph. I mean, speaks for itself. Gorgeous watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, business in the front, party in the back, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, just gorgeous. I was a little surprised with Balazs. He went with the Tudor opaline dial GMT. He's not really white if you've seen it in person. It's I guess they call it opaline, but he wouldn't buy it, but he really liked it more than he thought he would. He's not really a fan of white dial watches for the part. So how about you guys? Bobby, what's your favorite watch release of the year so far?
Okay, so there's been a great many watch releases from all different various price points in the luxury scale. I have to say my favorite release, and out of the watches that I directly have had hands-on experience, bought one myself, sold it, of course, because that's what I do. I have to go with that, and I forget, and the model number is going to escape me. That Seiko GMT, the Marine Master 200 case. That's slightly thicker than the baby Marine Masters. That green bezel and green dial. That watch, SPC, I think 383 or one of those. It was a 383, but I forget. Like it's something like that, SBC or SPV. Great watch. Such a good looking watch. It fits so well on my wrist. It was, thicker than those 62 and 68 Moss reissues, but thinner, slightly thinner than Marine Master 300, and it just popped with that green dial and that gold tone, yellow tone GMT hand. Such a great looking watch. Really enjoyed it. Sad I let it go, but those are popping up on toppers and other places secondary for around the $1,000 mark. Great watch. I highly recommend. I know I could have gone way fancier with that pick, but for me, for watches that I had in hand, that was a great one. And a close second one, of course, is my 356 limited edition classic. Love this watch. Sam, what about you?
Oh, it's been quite the year, hasn't it, for watch releases? Honestly, my favorite. I've got two. I've got one that is unobtainable, probably just because of the wait list. But I think that titanium Yachtmaster, the Rolex Yachtmaster, it just looks gorgeous. Absolutely, I can't wait. I want to see one in person. But everyone who has seen it in person, even Dave, who joins us on our live stream from Scottish Watches, who is the least fan of Rolex, I would say, out of any watch person that I know, he saw it in person, was even impressed. So that's high praise.
I'm on the list. I'm on the list. We'll see.
I love that. Ones that are obtainable, and one that I bought on the Black Friday deal is the Citizen, the Tsukiyomi, basically the atomic moon phase, the first time it's ever been done. Titanium watch. K Jewelers and Zales over in the US have them on sale for $550, which they're $850 everywhere else. So as soon as I saw that, so that was my
may have to go on after this stream and look at that watch.
Not paid promotion, not a sponsor. Zales or K Jewelers, which I think are the same because the checkout looks the same. But I thought that just for a feat of cool engineering from Citizen. So those are my two, I guess.
What about you, Clayton?
I really do like your GMT choice. That is my favorite Seiko diver case right now. It's great. But I mean, the only watch I think I've bought this year that was actually released this year is this. I got to try the MN blue one on this summer, and I don't know, like I love the way it wore. It's literally the most comfortable. I think that's why I haven't taken it off, because probably the most comfortable watch. And I'm not even a NATO strap fan, but I found those Velcro hook and loop straps, the very cheap ones on Amazon. They're great. And then this Octopod kind of Marine Nationale style strap is great too. But I saw the blue one this summer, and I didn't go for it. And then, but I love the way it wore. Just didn't love the blue. And then when this black one came out, I immediately wrote my AD and said please. And I got the first one they got, luckily. So
that's awesome.
So I think this is probably my favorite release of the year. So
sweet.
All right. Most overrated brand. Oh boy, we could get some trouble here. Balaj, he said you could say Rolex. He does like Rolex. Then he went with Breitling, throwing some shade at George Kern. Doesn't like the superstar CEO that's out in front, like making it all about him. He thinks what George Kern is doing with Breitling is great. Maybe he said he's talking a little bit about maybe like the pre-Kern era with the big gaudy watches and all that. Maybe he thought they were slightly overrated. And then Thomas said FP Journe. There's many other great independent brands out there, and maybe now they're like a hype watch. People, he's dealt with people who don't even realize that automatic watches don't need batteries, but still want a Journe just because they are like the watch to get. So I think that annoyed him about Journe. So that was his pick. Sam, how about you? What's your pick for most overrated brand?
Immediately, I think a Tag. Although I do like them, I do think they've done some good stuff this year, but I think they are overrated in terms of you don't exactly know where they fall in. They're trying to go more high end with the pricing, but they're still, you would still find them in Macy's or like a department store. It seems like they don't quite know where they're going. So I'll be interested to follow them, but I do think that they're probably maybe the most overrated by people that perhaps don't know about watches or are new to watches, maybe. But yeah.
Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, the easy pick is Rolex, right? I mean, like everybody's like, "Oh, the most overrated watch." I don't think they're overrated at all. I think they're exactly rated, right? I would have to say though, and I knocked this brand, man. I'm so tired of Oris. I mean, like I think Oris, they get so much attention on monochrome, so much attention on Hodinkee. Oh, you got to get the Aquas. Oh, you got to get the watch with the Kermit on it. You know what I mean? Oh, look at all these colors. Look, they're doing so many great things. At affordable pricing. Blah 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 blah. And you know what? Enough already with Oris. Okay, it's an independent brand. I get it. Yeah, we respect what they do. I get it. But you know what? Just enough with the hype already. Just don't. I'm just. I think it's the most overrated. I'm totally turned against Oris, man. I totally turned total against it, man. Overrated.
Or Kermit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
poor
love
Kermit.
Kermit. I love Kermit. I love Kermit. This is not easy for me, Sam. I love Kermit.
No.
It's
Well,
not
yeah.
easy hating Oris.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've never had them. I've liked them, but never enough to buy one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't even like them anymore. But anyway,
usually you are you bite your tongue. You're a little reserved, and
I do. Not anymore.
You say they're not for me, but yeah, you went full out. Let the record show.
Those days are over. I'm sorry.
Was it that new one, the new
Oh.
Diver 65? You and Amin gave that one a hard time.
The one that was with that group, the collective, that one.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What are they doing? What Peter C. Don't apologize for Oris, please. Please don't do this. Oris are pushing their price back up too. Perhaps it's a bit more than they really worth. Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
I think a couple of weeks ago we talked about our biggest watch regrets. Mine was an Aquas. I knew I didn't like it. I knew I wasn't a fan of the watch, but I liked the Dat Watt moon phase. And as soon as I walked out of the store, I was like, "What am I doing? Why did I buy this?" Now they sized it for me, and I can't even return it now.
Yeah.
Stupid.
they snipped it.
Yeah. This one might be a little controversial. This is just my opinion. I respect the brand, obviously a great history. Every Omega I've owned, it hasn't been as impressive in the metal as I thought. Like there's something like the bracelet edges are a little unrefined, or I didn't love the winding action of the Speedmaster. Something about the Seamaster, like the bezel action. I know you guys talked about that on that stream too, you and Amin. I don't care for it. I've owned 3 different ones. I love the way they look, so I keep going back. Man, yeah. So I don't know. Omega to me, but Oris was going to be my second one. I wasn't coming with as much heat as you did, but yeah, the pricing, and I understand a lot of research and development went to Oris creating the caliber 400. I get why they have to recoup some of that probably, but it's just like this new laser etch dial. What do they call it? The Pro Pilot X. It's like $5,400. Like, holy smokes! Good luck with that, Oris. I wish them well, but I don't know. They're getting up there. But anyway. So next was the best integrated bracelet. Thomas went with the Octo Finissimo Bulgari. He said it's over-engineered, which is a good thing. He likes the angles. They're thin. They put some really cool complications and still keep them very thin. So he likes that. Balaj went Tissot PRX, kind of revitalized Tissot, put them back on the map. You know, even a few years ago, what did they have, like the Visidate, that like you know, kind of crappy smartwatch T-Touch, but really outside of that, like what were they known for? But yeah, the PRX is totally blown up. Kind of got this maybe given the integrated bracelet watch a second life in the you know, in the affordable category. So Bobby, how about you? Best integrated bracelet watch?
Man, it's so hard for me to argue against those two guys with both their picks. Like, you know, like I wouldn't have thought of the PRX right off the bat. But hearing the argument made and having some experience with it in the last like year, I had a couple into the channel and gave those away. Man, it's nice, man. It really, that watch feels much more than what it's worth. And to me, that gives it a slight edge over some of the other integrated bracelet watches that I've seen in the last year or two. That Bulgari, the Actimus, is such a great choice. That I've tried that watch on. That thing is a pleasure to wear for sure. So look, no arguments here. You know, I can't disagree with both those picks. Sam, what are your thoughts?
The PRX is awesome. I did a comparison between that and there's a Casio that's $100, an Edifice that's $100 that's got an integrated bracelet. So if you want to get right in on that ground level, and that is decent. If you want to, I like the PRX. I was a fan of the 12 when it came out. I didn't like the dial they sent me, but then they sent me the 36 that had the navy dial, and I think that would suit me, the navy dial. I wish, the only thing with that is I wish that they would do a Kosk movement in the steel 12 with a blue dial, and then I'd be in on that. Also, the AP Royal Oak, it's unobtainable, but it's beautiful watch.
Absolutely. How about you, Clayton?
222. I mean, yeah, if we're going fantasy land, love that watch. Probably the favorite one I've ever owned was an Oyster Quartz. I had an 88 Oyster Quartz for a while. Shouldn't have got rid of it. If I did get a PRX, I saw they make like the gold fluted bezel one with the blue dial. That one was pretty sweet in person. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, PRX is just, yeah, you're right, guys. The for the money they charge, you can get a discount on them. They're really impressive watches. Like, yeah, Tissot just hit a home run. I'm not so sure about that digital one they just released, but like I think we said it, we're glad it exists. I would not buy it in a million years, but glad it exists. And then best dial color. Yeah, here we go. Monochromatic silver and gray for Thomas, and then Balaj was black. It's boring, but it's versatile. And he thought it was more dressy than white. White doesn't look as dressy to him as black dial watch does. So, Sam, how about you? What's your favorite dial color?
I'm going through a bit of a green phase at the moment, so I've got the mint green date just that I think is awesome. I mean, the best dial I think I've ever seen is the James Cameron Rolex James Cameron, just that gradient dial. But yeah, I'm going through a bit of a green phase. But also, there's some like the darker greens that I don't quite like. I'm a big fan of Nicholas at Fears, but they're mallard. I think it's mallard green or whatever. Not quite convinced on that. So green, I think, is hard to get right, but when you get it right, that's probably my favorite. And then blue second, I guess.
Yeah, I'm my eyes go to blue. But in the last few months, I'm find myself attracted more to the anthracite dial, and you know, this watch in particular, and now like that's all I'm looking at pretty much are anthracite dials. I just love that color, and that I feel like is going to be a phase for me, right? Maybe 6 months to a year, I'll rotate out of that. but I feel like I'll always go back blue. Now, look, I mean, all my watches pretty much are black dials, right? I don't have I don't think I have a blue dial in there, but it is my favorite color dial, hands down.
Yeah.
It's just there's more watches with black dials, I think, and that's what's going on here, Clayton, how about you?
Yeah, I tend to go towards black, but I mean, I have that funky blue Moser, which I mean, that
Oh
is
yeah.
so much fun. But anthracite, I'm with you. I especially like the way Rolex does it with a hint of that blue, like the Yachtmaster, and then the previous version OP, the 39, that has just a little blue like date or indices, essentially like
Yeah.
little markers above the indices. Like, oh man, I love that color combo, anthracite and like a baby blue, or it looks awesome. So yeah, I like green. I'd like to, like, the next watch I get, I'd love to go like a yellow, something just a little out there. I've never really owned a like a bright yellow watch. I don't know, something like that. Maybe a Doxa.
Yeah.
I really like the carbon, the black and yellow, because that carbon diver they have with the black carbon case and then the yellow, that really pops. So
Yeah.
probably do something fun like that at some point. We'll skip a couple here. We'll just do two more.
Yeah.
So we can move on. Best complication. Balazs likes the chronograph. There's so many options with the chronograph. You can get so many different kinds. Thomas, the moon phase. He likes the Arnold and Son. That's his favorite moon phase. Didn't really care for the Ming moon phase. And I think I agree with him. But the Arnold and Son is just a classically, beautiful, beautiful moon phase. You like the equation of time as well. So how about you guys?
Yeah, I
Bobby?
mean, for me, the one complication that I find the most useful, I'm not including date here. I'm not including date. Okay,
Right.
that's just too easy, right? A power reserve. I like a power reserve. I like seeing the power reserve. I like the power reserve, and now I have to say, like, coming in a close second now, is Chronos. I have like 4 Chronos. I have like 3, no, 1, 2. Yeah, I have 4 chronograph watches. I was not a chrono guy at all. 2 years ago, no Chronos. Now I'm just like Chronos. All I can think about is Chronos. German Chronos with anthracite dots. You know what I mean? That's for me. Yeah, I mean, Sam, what do you think?
I mean, and I think most people in the chat know my obsession with the date. If that is a complication, I can't buy a watch without the date now. It's just a thing I've got. But I'm going through a GMT phase, so I think GMT. I quite like GMT. A GMT, and it's got to be legible as well, because I've got the Quartz Sumo that has the GMT, but you can't really tell the numbers around the outside and stuff. So I'll go with date first. But if we're saying proper complication, then I'll go with GMT with the Traveler GMT, where it snaps to the hour, is probably the most useful. But I think you have to have that on Quartz, really, because it doesn't have a quick set date.
Yeah.
A couple. The Central Minutes chronograph was really handy, because oftentimes I'm not doing anything like not split timing or anything like that. I just am timing like a dog walk or something, like something pretty simple. So that Central Minutes chronograph was really handy. It's also no subdial, so you don't have to like have glasses on or really bring the watch right up to your face to see what's going on while you're timing something. It's really, really cool. That Damasco DC80, I had that function. And then I love when like just an independent hour hand, when you can just on a 3-hander. I had that on the Grand Seiko 9F85 I had, where if you're flying to California from here, you don't have to stop the watch, just unscrew the crown, move the hour hand back 3 hours, and then put the crown back in. So I love that kind of practical stuff with complications. Just that no-brainer kind of handy stuff. And the last one, best dive watch. Thomas picked the Tornik Rayville. He just loves the overall design, the moisture indicator, just the whole history of that. And then Balazs went with the Doxa Sub 300. Obviously the sub is iconic, but he feels like he couldn't really dive in it, whether it be a vintage one or even if he got a new one. But the Doxa Sub 300 just screams like diving, and it's a pretty iconic dive watch. So how about you, Sam?
It's such a hard one, isn't it? Like best dive watch.
Really hard.
Yeah, it's got to. The hands have got to be legible so that you can see them when you're actually diving. I'd probably have to go. I'd probably have to go with maybe a Seiko tuner, like a quartz one, maybe. So you've got the reliability there. With yeah, I might change that opinion later, but I'll go with
Yeah,
Tuna is
and
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and Sam, you can change your opinion. I mean, like I've changed my opinion on this particular question like 5 times today. So because I knew we were going to talk about it. It's hard for me not to say that the Submariner is probably the best dive watch I've ever worn. Just the way it felt, just the way it looks. I mean, it's tough. I think it's reliable. I if I was a diver, I would dive with it. But that aside, I feel like the Seamaster probably, and I know bezel issues aside, for the price point that you're looking at, for the movement, for everything about the brand, it's got to be the best. It's got to be the best, right? I mean, like, or, I mean, I'll probably change my mind in 3 minutes, but for 9:26 p.m., I think the Seamaster is all that I mentioned, probably the best option out there for
yeah.
for a
I've
dive
just changed my mind actually. I've got a Christopher Ward Elite 1000, which is a 1,000-meter diver with it's titanium and it's got their quick ratcheted
Mm.
clasp on it, and it really legible hands, black dial, white hands. The bezel turns awesome. So I'll go with Christopher Ward Elite
I
1000.
changed my mind. I'm gonna go with the Zin U50. I mean,
Oh,
that
yeah,
watch is thinner
legible.
than a Black Bay 58, 500 meters on rubber. I mean, with those like Lego hands. I mean, talk about legibility.
Yes.
No brainer.
I'm resisting the urge to say the FXD for every answer
Yeah,
tonight, but
say it.
really, like, no, because it's a fixed so NATO straps really, and I know like they're perfect for diving and everything, but the idea of getting like a NATO strap or a nylon strap wet just like kind of freaks me out. I don't know, just ugh. But so the Ploprof, I think it was designed by with divers input. Real deal divers use it, like people who are laying like wire on the bottom of the ocean that are way far
Yeah.
down, like tubing and wire and everything, like doing that kind of stuff, building infrastructures, and so I mean, you can't knock the bezel. Obviously you have to press that button to push the bezel, so that kind of stuff matters, especially when these watches were developed. Maybe not so much anymore because they have dive computers and they're backup now. But yeah, the Ploprof is just a beast of a dive watch. So probably one of the coolest real deal divers, I think. So Ploprof.
Yeah, and the titanium one's not that heavy, really.
Right.
Unachieving watch collector saying I can't choose the best diver. Probably why I have a dozen of them. Right?
Right.
Absolutely. I totally
We're all
feel.
hooked on divers, right? I guess none of us can.
Yeah. Hey, Big Wrist is here. How you doing, Big Wrist? Time Hill, how you doing? Good to see you, Steve. Thanks for joining. Hey, so are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going. I picked a Watchfinder and Company 10 watches I suggest you avoid. So, his name is
Andrew
is
Mongan.
Andrew, and is it Thomas? Is it
Tom.
Tom.
Yep.
Had this little kind of like podcasty type video going series that they do, and it's been great the last couple of weeks. I've been finding it very, very interesting. And so they analyze 10 personalities and the watches they probably should avoid. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through them, and then I want you guys to keep in mind, and you chat especially, which personality are you, and or do you know anybody that fits these personalities? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So let's start with the first one. And the first one is the person, I think this was Tom's suggestion, the person who's a little careless, right? I mean, and this person should avoid delicate watches like dressy or vintage. So if you're clumsy, if you're knocking into doorways and whatnot, you probably want to avoid wearing a dressy watch or a vintage watch, because if you, especially with a vintage watch, these things have, obviously have some age in it, not to the modern specs. If you knock into them, you might have a little trouble, and then you have to go and send them back and get fixed somehow, and then maybe they don't have the parts. So it's very, very tricky. Andrew says the pessimist he talks about the pessimist, and the watch that the pessimist should avoid is the Mr. Jones the Accurate. And the great thing about this watch, the funny thing about it, on the hands, on one hand it says "Remember, you will remember," and the other hand says "Will die." So, like, if you're a pessimist, you probably are already struggling with the fragility of life anyway, right? And so, when you have to be constantly reminded by your watch to remember you will die, it's probably not a good thing for the pessimist. Number three, the outdoorsy type, right? So you should avoid. This is Tom's suggestion. If you're the outdoorsy type, you should avoid watches with straps or lack water resistance, right? That makes sense if you're in the outdoors. If you have to jump in the water or the river or something like that, you don't want to have a leather strap on because water does huge damage, or blood does damage to leather. And if you don't have any water resistance, well, you can get a little trouble there with the movement, of course. Number four, Andrew says the disorganized person, and this person should not have perpetual calendar watches, right? They require care, right? And the dates and time, all that stuff has got to align. So if you're not organized, man, you probably shouldn't have one of these watches. Number five, the introvert. So if you're introverted, right, you don't want the attention, you should probably avoid Hublot, Richard Mille, and Invicta. Avoid the brands because they attract attention, either positive or negative. So if you don't want anybody to notice you, you probably shouldn't wear like a 50 millimeter case Invicta for sure. Number six, the nervous disposition. Don't like pressure. Avoid the minute repeater. You got a loud strike that might startle you. It's delicate and expensive, and setting it can be nerve wracking, right? So if you're a nervous person, you probably want to avoid setting any kind of watch. The seventh one, the OCD type, right? Avoid, and this is a great one. Avoid any, certain Seikos, right? Especially if you have one with a misaligned bezel. I mean, who hasn't here had that issue ever with an affordable Seiko diver? I know I've had it
Even
several,
expensive ones.
even
Yeah.
some expensive ones, right?
Yeah.
Of course. So stay away from them. And it's and you know what? And they don't give a break for the higher end brands like the Rolex with the crown, with the crown on the crown, like for all the money you spend, and sometimes you can't get that crown to just align. I know exactly what they're talking about. When I had my Submariner, fortunately, it did align upwards of the crown on the crown. But I could imagine myself. I'm like, man, this would be a problem if this went aligned. I would have a problem, and don't consider myself, that OCD type personality. Number eight, the cynical personality. Avoid the tourbillon. All right. In modern watches, there's no use. There's no use for a tourbillon, right? And it's very expensive, and it's pointless, right? They will find it pointless, the tourbillon. So we don't need it. And if you're cynical, you definitely don't want that. Number nine, overly curious. So if you're an overly curious personality, you probably should avoid the Brightline emergency. Tom was talking about like having like the equivalent of like I forget what he called it, but like you have the little devil on your shoulder that tells you to do things like swerve the car. Like what happened if you swerve the car off the side of
The
the road?
imp
And that
of
kind
the
of stuff.
perverse. I wrote it down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I, sometimes I hear that voice too, but I don't, fortunately, don't take any advice from that voice. But the Breitling emergency, you pull that thing, man. If you're not in distress, man, you might be in a whole heap of trouble.
Yep.
So it's a cool feature, but man, I know maybe I would be. Not to say that I'm the bit a curious personality here, but man, that would be like something a thought that I would have every day if I had that watch. And finally, the forgetful type. Speaking of date on watches, Sam was mentioning that he likes can't have a watch without date. Like if you're a forgetful type and you forget to switch the date at the end of the month, if it's not a 31-day month, you may be a couple days later, and you may be a couple days off and realize that you are, or maybe you don't even realize that you're on the wrong day. But if you're the forgetful type, forget about, just get a regular, two-hander or three-hander with no date. Okay, we zipped through all those personalities. Clayton, is there a personality on this list that you find yourself kind of identifying with?
I resonated with a couple of them.
Mhm.
Careless. I really like the spillage idiot. That comment. I'm not like I wear without a care. Like if like I don't like to baby my watches. That's not fun to me. If I just have to concentrate on not scratching a watch, like I might as well just take it off because that's not fun for me. So I'm an arm swinger. I'm pretty active, so things happen, and watches just sort of get they get scratched up. Like this already has some. And surprisingly, for wearing it for as long as I have, it's not too bad. But there is a flea bite on the case. Not sure how it happened, but I just
Yeah,
wear them, and
yeah,
yeah, that's me for sure. And then I thought disorganized also. Part of the reason I never really collected anything is just because I'm so I have like ADHD all over the place. So
yeah.
I've always been like, man, I spend so much money on CDs growing up, and they all got scratched up. I mean, took horrible care of them. Get Columbia House, get all kinds of them, and then it just like never put them back, never put them away. Terrible, wasted tons of money doing that. And I also use like I'm in my car a lot, so the passenger side where you put your feet, I totally use that as storage. I know Andrew made a comment about that. I totally do that. uh, I actually I met somebody a couple weeks ago at an event who was wearing a Milgauss, and it's his only watch. We were talking about it, but he had it was like a week after the time change, and I looked at it, and he looked at it. He's like, "Oh, you know what? I haven't even adjusted it for the time change." So it's like, yeah, obviously he's doesn't care. He just wears it. It's like part of him. So really, I'm not like too OCD. I've had Seikos that are off. Like, who cares? I've had Seamasters. Both two of the three Seamasters I had misaligned bezels. I don't really care about that. I see some people like taking a loop to their watches and like something's just a hair off. And like, should I bring it back to the AD? And like, oh, that just sounds like not even worth it to me. But I guess like, hey, we all have a different personality. So those were the couple that really kind of I felt I identified with, though. How about you?
How about you, Sam? Yeah, Sam. When do you go next? Yep.
Yeah, well, I think actually James Duffy might have won this already, but I think I definitely resonate with that one.
Number 11.
Yeah, to be fair, when it started off, first of all, congratulations for them putting their big boy pants on and actually putting their faces on the camera, because instead of it just being two disparate talking microphones.
Yeah.
But and I was sort of watching it thinking, oh, is this? I wasn't kind of getting in with the. I think they were doing like an in joke between them. I wasn't kind of getting into it. But as soon as he hit that Breitling emergency, that is the devil on my shoulder. Because I would remember, when I was a kid and I had those Casios, and I'd be like, oh, what if a pilot needs me to work out something, or I had my calculator watch? What if I'm in an emergency and I need to calculate something? So that is just like the grown up version of the. I would imagine having a Breitling emergency, and then it really. Being like, oh, what scenario could I ever be in? And then when that scenario never happens, you're like, oh, that's it. Would it be the devil on my shoulder, like playing with it, or like subconsciously? Yeah. So that one resonated with me. I think that was the best. That they kind of won me back with that one.
Yeah. So for me, there were several personalities that I do identify with to a certain extent. Like I'm totally like the careless person. Like I hit my arm on the doorways all the time. I just got a tattoo on my arm, and I got like I'm sore. I got it the other day, and I'm banging my arm against the doorway, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? So it hasn't stopped me from getting like a dress piece before, and I banged those up too.
Yeah.
But I'm not a vintage person, so that hasn't really affected me. There's other reasons why I wouldn't go vintage anyway, or focus a lot of my efforts on vintage. But I'm not into things at all time, and it doesn't. Fortunately, like Clayton, it doesn't really bother me as much, especially if I know I kind of put it there. If I put that mark there, I mean, then I'm okay with it. Obviously, the first mark hurts the most, and then like after that, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like I get over that pretty quickly. I and the disorganized person, I am totally there. I don't think that ever stopped me from getting a virtual calendar. I would just, put it in a
Right.
Watchfinder. You know what I mean? But those are fun. And look, I mean, I've been annoyed with the Seiko bezel misalignment thing. I wouldn't say to a level of OCD that I'm like constantly checking it or checking all of them to make sure before I buy them or whatever. Like it's a little annoying, but I get over it, and it's not that big of a deal for me. I mean, if it's grossly misaligned, then that would be a problem. But if you're just talking about just like, I don't know, like a half or a quarter click off, it just that doesn't. It annoys me for a split second, and then I get over it, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with having the piece.
Usually you can line it up with backplay too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't
exactly,
really bother me. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can align it up with backplay, then I'm absolutely totally good
Yeah.
with it. But when you get that the chapter ring
Yeah.
inside, and that's like
Yeah.
off, that's a real bummer. That's a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
bummer. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But if it's on an SKX, like, who cares?
Right.
I mean, it is. I am a little bit of the curious type. I probably would never own a Breitling emergency for that reason, because I don't know. I would never pull it, but man, I'd be thinking about it like all day. It's like, oh man, wouldn't it be crazy? And I'm the forgetful type, but whatever. Aren't we all? Aren't
Yeah.
we all? Okay, I haven't seen anything updated in the chat for a while, unless my chat my comments are stalling for some reason. But anyway, let's just move on. We'll move on to Sam, your pick, and you picked a nice video, the Teddy Baldassarre 5 types of watches that suck to own. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so 5 type of watches that suck to own, parentheses, I'm going to name no specific watch that I sell in my store.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really like what Teddy does, because I have to remember that he is probably a great resource for when you're starting out watch collecting, isn't it? And so some of the videos he does, which is like, what is a watch? You think, oh, that's a bit cheesy, but then when you watch it, you think, actually, that is a really good resource. The way he explains things as well is really good. So yeah, so he did 5 types of watches that suck to own. The first one he said was vintage. He owns vintage, but the servicing costs, getting the parts, etc. So he kind of went through that. Also, he mentioned about water resistance of vintage watches, which I don't think a lot of people mentioned that. And also he mentioned the quick set date, which I've never thought to mention, but I have a Seiko speed timer, and I had a vintage Grand Seiko that I had to scroll through the whole thing, or you had to flip it back and forth to get the date. And then he mentioned about non-established brands. It's roughly talking about. He had 2 that were quite similar. So this was talking about Kickstarter brands, so the customer services, and also things like warranty. Like, they might say they've got a 5-year warranty, but if they've only been around for 6 months, what does that really mean?
Right.
And then he had the other one that was linked to this. He had complicated watches, like he said, Chinese tourbillons, that it would cost you more to service the watch than it would do to buy a new watch. So I guess anything with an NH35A that can be swapped out. But he mentioned Seagull as an example of this, not being able to service it. And then he did one that was quite brave for him, which was talking about mechanical complications. And he focused on a chronograph watches, saying that actually, not that he was saying that they suck to own, but he was basically talking about the servicing cost eventually, just saying that actually most watch collectors don't realize just how complicated a chronograph complication is, because we see them so often, which I thought was quite an interesting point that I don't think not a lot of people make, that actually for a watchmaker, or for somebody who's making a watch, that is what by far even more complicated than doing a tourbillon or something like that, creating a new chronograph or servicing a chronograph. So I thought he made a quite good point there. And then he was talking about watches that suck to own are the watches that you personally don't wear for a specific reason. Sentimental value, their actual value. If you if you wear an expensive watch but you live somewhere where you wouldn't wear it. This reminded me very much of my Omega Speedmaster, which I'm sure we'll get into late in a bit, and then also watches where you might have overextended yourself. And I was expecting a little thing to come up saying we offer financing at Teddy Baldassarre. You didn't go that far, but and
affirm.
then he was saying like if you could set a watch on fire and everybody sort of said it would suck, but it wouldn't change your life, and that was quite a good point actually made. So it was quite an interesting video. I don't know if, from your guys' point of view, did you guys think it was good? And then you made some good points. And was there any that sort of stuck out to you? Yes.
Yeah, I think he made some good points. I mean, like, look, I mean, there's watches with complications, right? I think some of us, or I'll speak for myself. Initially didn't really, think of that, right? Look, I'm in and out of watches, most watches, relatively quickly, so I haven't really experienced what servicing costs could be like for a chronograph. I remember when I picked up the El Primero, I had a Zenith El Primero, and the servicing cost for that watch, and I didn't have it long enough to get it serviced, but it was like $1,500. And that's crazy. You know what I mean? A Zeitwerk, right? Now, look, I mean, if you can own a Zeitwerk, if you have that, you are the means, you probably have the means to service it. But that's like a $5,000 to $7,000 service. And that watch needs to be serviced rather frequently. I'm talking like almost every 5 years. So that's bananas with between $5,000 and $7,000. I mean, you can get yourself a really, really handsome Grand Seiko, for example. You know what I mean? That it looks beautiful and it's very dressy and whatnot. So, I mean, the video serves as a good reminder, right? I mean, the title probably wasn't an accurate title for it. So like I was expecting something to be more controversial, you know what I mean? And maybe that's what the great content creators do. They suck you in with these titles and whatnot. But I do appreciate some of the points. It's some of the points I've made myself and we've all made in these sort of kind of like groups when we're talking about watches. Yeah.
The cost of ownership is something we accumulate all of these expensive watches, and then we just don't think about that, and then we get kind of a sucker punch when something goes wrong, and like you said, $1,000, $1,500 to service things. I was talking to a watchmaker at an event recently, and he was talking about water resistance. We were talking about that because he's learning how to work on Cartier watches. So he actually got a Santos, and then he's doing like a Zoom program provided by Cartier. And we're just talking. He said the most water resistant intrusions he sees are actually not like through the crown; it's through the crystal. Imperfections in the crystal, or maybe like the watchmaker didn't put the watch back together properly. So he said that is the bigger problem than screwed out crown or gaskets or anything like that. It's water intrusion through the crystal. He said that is by far the what he sees. So yeah, some of the like vintage watches or watches that maybe have been serviced. I had a watch serviced by a professional watchmaker. I got it back and it stopped running. Turns out there was like a little tiny screw that was just a little loose. So yeah, I mean, things can happen. So that's another thing. And warranty is something to really keep an eye on. And yeah, that's why a lot of people don't like micro brands, I think, because, will this brand, I have a 5-year warranty, but will they still be in business in 5 years? And I actually liked what he said about, Kickstarter and these micro brands are so focused on getting the funding to bring these watches to production that everything else is. I own a business, so I understand like that other doing the actual job requires so much work that the other stuff like the paperwork and the getting back to people, like that can be the hard part that you do at night when you're exhausted or you do early in the morning before the day starts. So yeah, I liked that. I could identify with that. So yeah, overall good video. It made some good points.
Yep.
Sorry. Oh no, go ahead, please.
No. Yeah, I agree. One that resonated with me, and I just realized it linked to the Watchfinder video as well. Is when I got my Omega Speedmaster serviced, I'd worn that thing for 10 years, and I was bashing it, same as you, bashing it off doors. It had the Hesalite or acrylic or whatever they call it. And I was, and then Omega serviced it $850, which I didn't think was too bad at the time. It came back pristine. Like I'd never, because I bought it secondhand, so I'd never seen it look new, and I just couldn't. Like what you said about watches that you're afraid to wear, I couldn't wear it again. I just couldn't.
Interesting.
And I had to sell it in the end. So I'd owned it for 10
Wow.
or 11 years. I had to sell it. I just couldn't. I didn't. It just lost that.
So
Wow.
you didn't want them to do that? You would have preferred they didn't polish it?
What? At the time, I wanted them to. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
time, I was like, "Oh, this is good." They're like, "Oh, come back, look," and it came back looking brand new. And I think that's what the polishing and everything, and it just kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, "Oh, this isn't the same thing that I feel like
Yeah.
I could." Now it's a precious object instead of just the watch that I wore every day. So I think he made a good point about watches you're afraid to scratch and afraid to wear.
Yeah.
Right.
You should think about that during the purchase.
Yeah, I had certain watches in my collection at some point. Like I had the Stefan Kadoki too, and I was kind of afraid to wear it. I called it my evening watch because I'd only wear it when the kids were in bed. You know what I mean? Because like I wasn't roughhousing, and even then, because I am the the person with the careless personality or qualities that I was afraid that I'd smack into it. You know what I mean? And it was a beautiful watch, and it was on the smaller side, so like I probably could avoid a lot of the dangerous arm swings into door jams. But it definitely have felt that the this watch is a little too nice for this stage of my life. Maybe further down. So I definitely have felt that one. And in regards to the vintage stuff, a lot of points at when you've already owned the watch, there's a lot of issues with it. But for me, the scary part of the vintage is like I don't know anything about vintage. So
Yeah.
like getting a watch, that's also scary. And this is before I even own it, because you want to avoid, or I think I would want to avoid something that perhaps was Frankenstein, because that's also a possibility, right? That, parts go in there that don't belong to the watch. Yeah, I mean, look, it's thought provoking, the video. It's good. It's nothing, he hasn't reinvented the wheel with any of these things, but it's always a good reminder anyway, right? To think about these things, especially when you're purchasing your next watch.
Yeah,
It's interesting for him because he has, I think he's approaching 1 million subs, right? So he probably, I don't know, he probably wants to make more like watch geek video, but maybe he is catering to, I assume a lot of that million is new people in the hobby, right? That are just that are looking for this type of information. So yeah, it's probably interesting. I'm sure he has a whole team of people, seems like it anyway, that kind of plan these ideas out and everything. But yeah, it's interesting, like the content he decides to do. Wonder how much that plays into it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so Maison saying if you are worried about scratching your watch, go ceramic. Unless you are clumsy, you'd worry. You're so clumsy, you worry about smacking it hard and it might shatter. I've heard that happening. Bobby Lay's competing with the NFL tonight. Oh, there must be a good game going on tonight. Chat has been very, very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. The holiday weekend too.
It's also the holiday weekend. You know, that's okay.
Tomorrow we're all back to work, so it's food coma still going on.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I guess it's a good time to wrap it up. Hey, Clayton, what do you got going on, man? Tell us about.
I got nothing. I got nothing going on the podcast yet. Hopefully, now things start to. This is a lighter month with people being on vacation and stuff. So hoping to get back in the swing of things. But I know I've been slacking about getting this podcast out, but I'm going to do it tonight or early in the morning. We're gonna get back on that too. So the Watch Soup podcast will be back.
Excellent. Hey, Sam, you got some things going on, man. Tell us the chat. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I've got two watches that are coming out, two watch reviews that are coming out this week. One on the 30th, and then one I'll be doing on the 4th. So maybe the week after. The one I'll be doing on the 4th is a custom G-Shock. So
wow.
yeah,
Cool.
a company called IFL that are
Mm.
customizing G-Shock. So that's quite interesting because this is something that a type of customization that I've never reviewed on the channel before, and it looks spectacular. And then there's the one that's coming out this week is a collab with another famous person in the watch scene. So it's a next watch collab for them. So that'll be coming out on the 30th. So keep an eye. It's quite an interesting one. And then I'll probably be doing. I need to get this marathon. I did a video on this marathon, so I'll be doing that out. And then I did what I'm calling the kiss of death for a YouTuber, which is where you review a watch that is not a current model, but you quite like it. Doesn't normally get a lot of the views. So I've got the G.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned the Tissot T-Touch before because I'm doing a video on one of the watches from the Mission Impossible films.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that'll be that should be a fun one. But yeah, quite a few. I managed to get a lot with my wife working Thanksgiving. I edit also. I managed to get a lot of the filming done and
There's actually a new T-Touch out now that looks kind of cool. Sorry, Bobby.
No. Thanks, Clayton. Hey, Sam, tell us about your website. My cat is rubbing her face.
Oh yeah, so I started a watch selling website called Casual Watch Reviews Marketplace. It's the URL is district.net/casual watch reviews. It's a new platform where I can sell watches, but then other people can also apply to sell watches underneath the framework. So they've built this out. It's kind of like a Whatnot, but goes on all the time. It's a marketplace. So there's a couple of watches on there now. Yeah, you should check them out. And then I'll be opening it up to friends to sell on there as well. But yeah, hopefully it'll be YouTube people like us selling directly to the subscribers, people that are interested. So yeah, hopefully make it a bit more community.
That's awesome.
Very nice. Yeah. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, hey, listen, I got the new channel starting on Tuesday, the new live stream. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, you can find the link to that live stream channel in the description below. Also, make sure you check out the giveaway. I'm giving away a G-Shock. G-Shock steel, a one that came with a leather strap, which is interesting. They don't see that too often. It's a great looking watch, pretty cool. That's on the Bobby Legs Loves Watches channel, so make sure you catch that. I released that yesterday. And hey, look, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and get back to work, man. Only for a few more weeks, right? And then we have the holidays, so it's all good. Anyway, guys, Clayton, Sam, thank you so much. Chat, you were great. Really appreciate you. And we'll see you guys next week in a new channel. Take care. Good night.
Good night.